Hi, my name is Adam. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk with Brett Martinson. So Brett's part of our team here. He's the certified financial planner, been part of our team building out financial plans and just helping out with our clients. He's a great wealth of knowledge. So he is an engineer by trade, became a financial planner many years ago, holds a CFP designation. I thought I'd bring Brett on today to talk about pension plans. So Brett lives out east. So he lives in the Niagara region. I always find there's more pension plans out east than there is out west here in BC. We're going to talk about, do you have to take pension plans right away? When you retire, do you have to start your pension plan? What are going to be your options? How do pension plans work? How do they integrate in? So kind of everything pension plans, defined benefit pension plan, we're going to cover in this video. If you haven't already checked out our Investing Academy, we'll put the link below. There is our financial masterclass. Brandon and Mark Beavis have their Investing Academy, and there's much more in there. We're adding more content creators almost on a daily basis. So Brandon's working hard to find people that integrate in. So it's kind of the one-stop shop for everything financial planning, investing, mortgages, real estate, all of that in one spot. And it's $19.99 a month. You can't beat it. If you're looking for something like that, again, this is a great place for that. So welcome Brett to the channel, and we'll jump into it here. So Brett, thanks again for joining us today. Great to have you back on the channel. I know last time we did a video, we had a lot of people come back, make comments, even email me saying, make sure you have Brett on more often. Brett is a part of our team, like I mentioned. And we want to talk about that commuted value and deferred pension, and just like when you retire or when you have a defined benefit pension plan, do you have to take it right away? What are your options? How do you roll that out? And I know a lot of you watching this video, you have a defined benefit, even though they are not as common as they used to be. Brett, maybe tell me your experience with defined benefit plans and how clients should start looking at these going forward.
Well, it's similar a little bit in the conversation about CPP, in that I find a lot of people don't necessarily consider their options. Now, this isn't to say that they absolutely should take it right away or they absolutely should delay it. Just like other conversations in financial planning, it's more about, well, what are the pros and cons, and then therefore what's best for the client in terms of their goals. The first kind of line that I see is at a certain age, say 55 or 60, a person has to decide whether they're going to commute the pension out. So that's basically taking the cash value of it. And we'll probably talk a little bit about what that means. Or do you not commute it out? And once you've made that decision, then typically you have to take it as a defined benefit pension plan, a guaranteed amount of money every month, depending on when you choose to start it. The other thing I find a lot is I will see some clients, not a lot, have already taken the pension, and you're doing a plan for them. Maybe it's the other spouse is just retiring now and the other spouse retired 3 years ago and they've taken the pension. And you're kind of sitting there going, wow, if we'd had this discussion 3 years before, if we had the discussion at the time when they had this choice to make, maybe they would have made a different decision than they had right now. And shoulda, woulda, coulda. But as a financial planner, I'm sure you can relate. It's just like, can we go back in time?
So most people by 55, most pension plans are 55. That's kind of the cutoff time or day to take the commuted value or just go on with the deferred pension. Yeah. And we've had quite a few clients actually leave their job just before age 55 to take the commuted value. Like they look at their world and they say, you know what, there's more value to take the commuted pension plan, cash it out. Maybe they can go back and work casual for that same company, or maybe they're just looking to change jobs altogether. So there is a lot of decision that come into this.
Yeah. And one thing about the commuted value there is you may see that lump sum number. Let's say it's 250. Let's say it's $500,000. It could even be, upwards close to $750,000 or more, depending on your position and how long you've been with the company. You see that number go, wow, like $500,000, that could really boost up my my retirement savings. But that $500,000 doesn't always come out perfectly tax deferred. Some of it may be taxable, so they end up, I'm just throwing out numbers at this point, but 125,000 of it could be taxable. So they worked and made 100 grand or 80 grand that year. They commuted out a bunch of stuff. 125 was taxable. In that year, they just made $205,000 of taxable money that maybe they didn't plan for, and more money ended up going to the government via taxes than they thought that was going to happen. And you can't unravel that, or I would imagine you can't unravel it very easily. I would almost say you can't unravel it.
And that's where we talk to clients that are looking to take commuted value. It's, can you bump it a tax year, calendar year? So, I mean, if you're looking at it right now, we're in April, end of April, you can't obviously probably bump it to 2023, but if you're coming up to the end of the year, can you bump it to the next calendar year, or at least bump a lot of it to the next calendar year? It is an option. We've had clients do that. If you need more information about commuted value and take commuted value, we have a full video. So we'll link it. I forget which corner, but one of these corners, we'll link it up there and you can watch that video. But when you take commuted value, like Brett said, there's a piece of it that goes to a LIRA, locked in registered account, and a piece of it comes to you in cash. And that's going to be taxable in the year that you get it. When you think about that, it's like, well, I don't want to pay tax on all that, so I'm going to take the defined pension or the ongoing pension. Some of you say, well, I want control of it, but what's that cost you? Maybe what's the benefit? And we've cashed out a lot of pensions more than ever the last couple of years. But as interest rates start to tick up now, cashing out your pension plan probably starts to make less and less sense, because it's based on the 30-year bond rate. And there's a big calculation that goes into it. There's no set calculation. But if you have the option to take a commuted value or an ongoing pension, hire someone to do the breakdown to figure out what makes the most sense for you. Oftentimes it's close to the same. Sometimes one is way more advantageous. And trust me, I've seen it go both ways. We offer that service. It's $1,500, but we'll put it together for you and we'll break down exactly what you should be doing. And trust me, we've seen hundreds of thousands of dollars difference between the options.
And I would also add to that, one of the favorite things I'll talk about financial planning is the client's goals. Doing the math is one thing, because, okay, it's more beneficial mathematically to do this or to do that, or whatever the case may be. If it's a client who wants that guarantee, who wants to know that they have that foundation of guaranteed money coming in for the rest of their lives, as much as a guarantee is these days, most pensions are pretty decently funded, especially the larger ones. So regardless of what the math says, maybe they will lean towards keeping the defined benefit pension plan, whereas somebody else, maybe you have a couple where they both have a defined benefit pension plan. So one decides to maintain their defined benefit pension plan, the other one decides to take the pile of cash. So they have a little bit of best of both worlds. Guaranteed money coming in for a certain amount, and also access to that cash if you want to go on a $30,000 trip or something like that.
Yeah, and we had a client that fell exactly into that, Brett. And we did their plan probably about 6 months ago. And they had exactly that. Like, I think it was, she had a big pension. She'd worked for a company for a long time and had a really nice defined benefit to the point where it was enough to kind of fund their retirement. He had a smaller defined benefit pension plan and he could take the commuted value. So when we ran it, we ended up coming to the conclusion that it made a lot of sense for him to commute and her to take the ongoing pension. And they took that, they paid off some debt, their mortgage, that kind of stuff. So it kind of rolled them into retirement debt-free with a bit of cash in the bank and a really good pension. So like that's a scenario there where you cash one out, you keep one going on a pension, and it kind of meets both worlds. So everyone's situation is different, and goals and current situation and plans and debts and all that come into it.
And I'll just, sorry, Adam, I'll just circle back on something you said there with when you commute it out, some of it goes into locked in, the rest is cash. Depending on your RSP room, you could potentially get a portion of that cash into your RSP, and then you're tax deferring it, which is another part of that conversation of, well, you've got $20,000 of RSP room, so a lot of this is going to be taxed, versus you have $110,000 of RSP room, so a good portion of it we can tax defer it. And if you have a large RSP, maybe that's not a great idea. So just for listeners and viewers watching, in terms of, there's the locked in portion, then there's the cash portion, and that cash portion can go two different ways depending on how much RSP room you have.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. What have you seen with pension plans? Like when someone has a defined benefit pension plan, are they able to defer? Like, they retire at 60. Do they have to start it right away? Can they defer? Like, that's really the core of this video is, I have a defined benefit pension plan. Like, I don't know what I can do with it. And obviously, to me, actually, the biggest overarch, it's commuted value versus taking the ongoing deferred pension. Like that's kind of decision number one. But decision two is, okay, I'm taking the deferred pension. Can I defer it? Do I have to take it right away?
Yeah. I don't have any hard numbers, but just based on my experience, I would like to say at least 50% could defer it. Like the key dates seem to be 60, 65. And I don't know how long this has been available, but I've certainly seen more and more being able to defer to 70. And I'm assuming that's based on the fact that we're living longer, longevity, things like that. I'm in Ontario, so I'm going to see a lot of pensions that tend to lean in Eastern Canada or Ontario. You're out in BC. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's any difference, but what have you seen on that end?
Yeah, I see most people start right away. Now, whether they have to or not, that's always a debate, because I'll ask clients, can you defer this pension, or can you start it right away, like you're 60 years old? Typically, the answer I hear is, no, I have to, I checked into it, I have to start it right away. Now, how much digging they did on that, I don't know. Again, there's a few issues that come up, or a few things you want to consider if you can defer it, is, if you're working part-time. So if you are retiring from your job and you're going to be working and have some income. Maybe it's substantial income. Maybe you're just retiring from one career and starting another career.
Yep.
You know, the surface answer from your HR department might be, no, you have to take it, because they don't really know. They're just kind of assuming as well. Let's say you're 60, retire with a great defined benefit, and you're going to work another career with good income till 65. You want to dig into to see if you can defer that. And if there's a benefit, right? If you take it at 60 or 65, the pension's the same no matter what. Well, of course you start, even if you're in a high tax bracket. But if you can defer it and get a benefit, that may be worth it. And you want to start running some numbers there. So definitely, if you're going to go back to work or part-time. As far as other reasons, like Brett, what would be some other reasons there to defer that pension, even if you're 60, like close to retirement?
Sure. And again, very similar to Canadian pension plan, because again, we're talking essentially two defined benefit pension plans. So similar kind of discussions around that. On the take it as soon as possible, again, what are your goals and what's your kind of mental state in terms of, I want to know that guaranteed check is coming in right now, and I don't care about the tax implications or anything else. This is more valuable to me. The health of the pension plan, how concerned or worried are you about the pension plan? What's going to be the difference down the road if I delay it? Now, the flip side of that, if I do delay it to 60 or 65 or 70, depending on obviously your age and such, do you have enough funds? Does your financial plan, hopefully you got a plan, does your financial plan say, yeah, I can fund the next 5 or 7 years until I kick into my defined benefit pension plan? And when I do, does that benefit me? In other words, depending on your goals, is my estate value going up? Can I spend more in retirement? It's sometimes counterintuitive that by delaying a CPP or defined benefit pension plan, that we end up actually with more money, assuming life longevity and things like that. If, as we always say, if we knew when somebody was to pass away, we could create the perfect financial plan.
I'll give you a story, and this is going to hit home for a lot of our viewers, because if you had a defined benefit pension plan, maybe in a previous career, you started a new career and it's kind of sitting there in the background. When you get to 55, you want to review it for the commuted value versus the ongoing deferred pension. When you get to 60, you're going to want to see, does it make sense to start it now, or is there a benefit to keep deferring it? And I had a client, this was early in my career, they got referred to me, I sat down with them, and they were early 60s. He was 62 and a half. He worked at a school. And previously he worked in the public school system and built up a pension. And we were going through their finances, and I looked at this pension. And I said, oh, you're taking this obviously. He goes, no, I haven't started taking it yet. And I said to him, there's no difference if you took it at 60 or 65. Like, you haven't started it for 2.5 years and it's not growing for you. Like, you've lost all this money. There's zero benefit to defer it past 60. So if you have a defined benefit pension plan, know the rules, know how it works. And it wasn't his fault. No one ever explained it to him. But obviously we started it right away. But he did miss about 2.5 years. And it's a pretty hefty pension. And I mean, he started right away, and they're forever thankful for it. It's about a $42,000 pension a year. So it wasn't peanuts.
That's $200,000 of taxable, but $200,000 of money that wasn't coming in over those 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were in a financial position where that income, it would help anyone, obviously, but they could have really used it at that point in time. And one thing is to be very aware of the structure around your pension. The last thing we want to talk about here is beneficiaries. So this can play a big part of what you do when you do retire, when you have a defined benefit pension. And I want to start with another story here. And this is a client of ours. We took the commuted value of his pension 2 years ago. So he was one of these cases where he quit his job just before 55 to take his commuted value of his pension plan. And the reason is because he had a teenage son. He was not married. And he knew that if he took the pension plan, that it only had a 5-year guarantee. That was the longest guarantee pay he could have on it. And he said, look, if I take this and die after 5 years, my son gets nothing. Like, there's zero value there. So when we ran the numbers, taking the ongoing pension gave him a little bit more money based on the assumptions that we made, but it's control. Are you married, common law? If you pass away, some pension plans have a 15-year guarantee pay, which means that when you start your pension, if you were to die in the first 15 years, it would continue to pay to your beneficiary up to that 15-year mark, and then it would drop off and stop completely. So you need to be aware of kind of your situation.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of questions to ask when it comes around a pension plan, which again, having the right team around you. I've seen so many pension plans that have that line, we suggest you see your financial advisor for advice. Because let's be honest, the pension company is not in the job nor have the credentials to provide that advice. They're in the job of helping accumulate the pension plan and set that up and name beneficiaries and things like that. So some of the questions I would be asking would be, can I get a sheet with all of my options? Now that may be like as long as your arm, but at least you know that, oh, I have 3 options. I have 15 options. Even if you can't figure out what those options mean and it all looks like Greek, at least you know that I have a few options or a lot of options, and take it to your financial planner. Again, I'd be asking that of the company that maintains the pension plan as opposed to the HR department. God bless HR departments. We all have our specialty, right? Like I wouldn't suggest to somebody what to do about changing the oil in their car, but I can help them with their retirement plan. So there can be a lot of questions to ask about it, but I do believe, as I think you've pointed out, the more you ask into it and spend the time and talk to the pension company and take that information to your financial planner and so on and so forth, at the end of all of that, you will become hopefully more informed so that the decision you make is a decision that you're comfortable with, having all the information that you could have at that time, rather than 3 years down the road. Like, how many people have said, if I had only known? It's not their job to know.
And people don't realize that, like, if you worked for a company for 25, 30 years, which a lot of people do with the defined benefit pension, that's like $1 million plus asset. Like, if you had $1 million sitting in an investment account, would you monitor it? Would you care what's going on with it? Like, a lot of people just, I got my defined benefit, they retire, they start their pension. And it's like, there's more to it than that. It's great to simplify. Like you and I, Brett, we're all about, simplifying it, dumbing it down, making it work for everybody, right? Like, I think that's why people watch this channel, for instance. But I think people oversimplify their pension, and it actually is costing a lot of people a lot of money.
There are some complex tools in financial planning. Defined benefit pension is one of them. It's one of those things that's worth saying, here's my pension plan. What other information do you need to be able to tell me what this thing does and what are my options, as opposed to it's just an on and off switch. It's I'm taking it or I'm not taking it, which is rarely the case.
And like you've been saying on video, like it's kind of like Canadian pension plan, right? Like we run numbers for clients all the time. It's like, okay, it makes sense to defer your, CPP all the way till 68. And they're like, no, I don't care. I'm starting at 60. It's same with the pension plan. So we may run numbers and say, look, the commuted value actually makes more sense. But they would rather take that deferred pension because it's guaranteed and like understand what the options are, the numbers behind it, the process, all that, and then make an informed decision. You may not make the decision that gives you the most money. It may be the decision that gives you the most comfort, but you've looked at both sides of the coin. And I think there's a lot of value there.
So your story about the single father, mathematically, it may have made sense for him to take the pension plan. In this case, it was only a little bit more, but mathematically. But in terms of him wanting to take care of his son, God forbid something happened to him, it was worth that additional cost. Sometimes I'll say to clients that taxes are sometimes the cost of us reaching our goals. If it means we're going to have to pay a little bit more tax to go travel the world and things like that, maybe that's it. So again, it's the client's goals. Our biases are not supposed to enter into it, and helping them become as informed as possible so that, yes, they can walk away going, yeah, I haven't changed my decision. And I know why I haven't changed my decision. Or I didn't realize there was an option C, and it was a nice balance between what I thought I was going to do and what I absolutely wasn't going to do. And so I ended up going with option C instead of the original option I was going to.
And the other thing too is, when you talk to your financial planner, reach out to Brett or myself here through our website. We'll put a link below. We've seen like your pension plan that you're looking the statement, and it looks like Greek, like Brett said. Like we speak Greek, like we, obviously we don't, but we've seen your pension plan before, probably many times over. And it's funny when, I'll get an email from someone, a prospect, and says, hey, Adam, I've been watching your YouTube channel. I have a very complex situation, or my situation is very different than the average person. And they send the summary, and I'm like, oh, that's the same as Joe from last week, right? Like we see these things all the time. So as unique as your situation is, it's probably not. And we probably walk through like 5, 10, 50 clients that are similar enough to yours. And we actually know what the end result was. Like, hey, this client was very much like you. Here's what they did, and here's how it turned out, and here's why we would or would not recommend it, kind of a deal, right? So we've kind of walked these paths before with different clients. And again, it goes back to the most financially beneficial answer or solution, and there's the most, psychologically meets your retirement need answer, and they're not always the same, and it's not always taking the one that gives you the most money.
A financial planner should be able to help you ask the questions that you need to ask of your pension plan. And the nice thing is so many of them now have these online access that you can run different scenarios. We're not going to ask you to run 23 different scenarios, but it's nice to be able to say, could you run this scenario, this scenario, and this scenario? You retire now, but you don't take it for 7 years. You work for 3 more years and you take it in 2 years. Whatever, again, the client's goals are, I'm considering this versus this. Okay, then we'd like you to run this scenario and then this scenario and get us that number back.
I'll say one more thing here and then we'll wrap it up. I know this
Sure.
video's getting a little long, but if you're looking to take the commuted value versus your ongoing deferred pension, you can't ask for what the commuted value will be in 3 or 4 years from now. The commuted value is a kind of a set in time event today. That's it. So if you're looking like in 4 years from now, when I retire, should I take a commuted value or pension? Well, you're only going to know that in 4 years from now when that time comes. So if you're looking for that kind of comparison, you can only do kind of a current day, present day comparison. But if you're looking to take, just run scenarios loosely on pension now, pension later, pension even further, and those you can run. And again, most pension plan providers nowadays have those, pretty good calculators online to run that. But if you're looking at commuted value, it's today and today only. Brett, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for
Sure.
joining us again. And hopefully this was valuable to people. And again, a lot of people, especially, out your way out east there, it seems like more people, OBC pension plans, man, they're not that common. Anytime I get a client that lives in the Ottawa area, it's guaranteed to have a pension almost. But definitely seems like there's more defined benefits out east. But again, we can help you walk through that process. So if you have a defined benefit, if you're walking through these, complicated formulas and calculations and not sure what to do, reach out to our office, whether you need a full, comprehensive plan put together or just need the valuation of commuted value versus taking your deferred pension. We're happy to help you with that. So Brett, thanks again for joining us.
No problem. Happy to be here. Thanks, Adam.
See you guys in the next video.